Well, hey there, Southern Oregon. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show. So glad you could join us today. I'm Alice Lema, a broker with John L. Scott Real Estate here in Southern Oregon. And today we have such a treat. We're actually going to be talking to Ready, Set, Show home stagers. And home staging is a really important part of real estate. And today, Jan Houston and Teresa Huntington are going to be joining us from the company that they started, Ready, Set, Show Home Staging. And they're going to give us some tips, answer some questions, clear up some misnomers about home staging. Super exciting to have Jan Houston and Teresa Huntington on the show today. So before we get started to that, let's talk briefly about what's going on in the market. Another interesting week. Gosh, it's just never boring, is it? Oh my goodness. So in the meantime, one of the reports that came out from Zillow this week that was very interesting is 45% of the buyers that are out in the market right now are first-time home buyers. It's just fabulous. We're so excited. And that kind of matches up with my experience the last 7 to 10 days. Lots and lots of first-time home buyers getting out there, getting their offers accepted, and just really understanding that we have a gentle appreciation already for 2022 in all 3 counties. We've still got about 5 to 6% in Jackson County, 6 to 7 in Josephine County, and up to 9% in Klamath County. And those change every week, right? So, but the point is that even through all this volatility, all this weirdness in 2022, our prices have gone up a little bit. And I think the first-time home buyers are totally into understanding the value of purchasing a property right now, especially if the feds raise the rates again. Can it be true? Did we see that in November they might raise it again? Well, I don't know. It's hard to keep track of the feds. But in the meantime, just wanted to point out this Zillow report is very, very encouraging. It's very exciting. So good for you all first-time home buyers and sellers. Take note, there's still people out there writing contracts. So don't be shy. And if you've got your house on the market, listen to your feedback and keep your house show ready. Okay. Let's get to our interview with Ready, Set, Show home stagers, Jan Houston and Teresa Huntley. Got a lot of questions to ask them. Home staging is really fun. It's important. It's beautiful and it's helpful. And we're pretty excited to hear what Jan and Teresa have to say. So let's take a quick break from our sponsors and say thank you to John L. Scott, Ashland, Medford, Guy Giles, Churchill Mortgage, and our local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. Thank you guys for sponsoring us. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back, Southern Oregon, to the Real Estate Show. We're so glad you could join us today. I'm Alice Lema. I'm a broker here in beautiful Southern Oregon with John L. Scott Real Estate and your host of the show. Today, we're so excited to welcome Jan and Teresa. They are professional home stagers, and they own Ready, Set, Show Home Staging. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Well, so home staging is such an interesting business. Before we start diving into things, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and your company?
Sure. We actually just got started a few years ago, dreaming about home staging and recognizing the need for it and what a wonderful business that it is. I love all things home, beauty. I love DIY, repurposing, that kind of thing. And so that's kind of how Jan and I even got started talking about different things. And so I'll let Jan tell how our business got off the ground.
Yeah, so my husband and I, we're real estate investors and we run our own remodels. And so I had done a full remodel of a nice house and I hired a home stager. And this was 5 years ago. And I was hooked. I watched the way it made people feel when they walked in the door. And it was completely different than if it was an empty house. So I started taking business classes, and then Teresa and I found out, because we were working together at the time, and we found out that we had the same dream, that we both had the same idea of home staging. And so we started dreaming together.
Wow.
And then we spoke with an agent friend of ours, and she hired us for our first consultation. And then she asked us to stage her booth at the home show. And then she hired us for our first vacant stage. And so that's Julianne Rollins. She helped us get a great start.
Oh, I love
And
Julianne.
we really
She's
appreciate
fun.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neat gal.
So she's hooked on it now too.
So what did you guys do before you got into home staging?
Well,
where did you work before?
Okay, for many years, I've been a hair technician. So as far as like color design, all that kind of stuff, I feel like that kind of even rolls over into homes,
it does. That artistic
for sure.
sense. Yeah.
So I did that for many years. And then where we actually met is working for the Medford School District.
Oh,
And
how awesome.
So something completely different than home staging or hair design. But that was a fun job for us to have, because then you have summers off and all that and those kinds of things, But our whole goal, once we got to know each other and our love for homes and all things beautiful, was to do home staging.
Wow,
Yeah,
what a great story. And how did you come up with the name Ready, Set, Show?
Well, my husband and I years ago were thinking of having a business that we would help people get their rentals ready, because we saw these houses that people were putting on the market that frankly just didn't look
They were not ready.
They were not ready. They had sheets in the windows and the lawn was too long and all this. And we thought we could have ready, set, rent, and we could have ready, set, sell. And so that was our idea a long time ago. And then when Teresa and I were like, okay, when we were getting ready to stage the home show, we said, we got to have a name now. And so we had also staged about a dozen times before we started. We were staging my rentals for practice in between. And so that was terrific. We were able to get good photos. And that's one thing too, that I don't think very many rental property owners think about staging, but it's definitely a great idea.
Yeah, that is a great idea. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the process itself.
So basically, like, what is staging? And staging is just really getting your home ready to sell and making it be so that it's appealing when people walk in and they can recognize, wow, I would want this to be my home. So it's not cold, it's not empty, it's not packed full of other people, other people's stuff. It feels spacious. And so it just really helps you to, helps the person recognize that this would be the home that I want. It adds value to your home. There's just so much about staging that I don't think people even recognize as a seller how important it is. Whether it's us doing a consultation and we'll talk about that here in a second, but it's like merchandising a product, and you want whatever you're merchandising to look the best, feel the best, smell the best, for the people that are coming.
It's kind of like when you're getting ready for a date, you want to make a good impression, right? If you're about to go on a first date, you want your hair to be fixed and your nice clothes on and your jewelry on. And when you're getting ready to market your house, you certainly want to be ready and you want to be dressed and have your jewelry on. And that's like all the furniture. And even with their own, a lot of times we use, we can come in and work with the homeowner's own furnishings and decor.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. So I think you guys hit it spot on, and it's so interesting how you describe the importance of staging, because I don't think people understand when a prospective buyer walks in the door, they're nervous, they're excited, and they're also kind of kinesthetic. Even if they're super linear people, there's something going on, they're having an experience, and staging makes them feel good about the space. And it's hard to explain that to people.
Yeah.
Exactly. It feels like the potential that it could be their new home. And when we're dealing with someone who is living in their home while they're selling it, when we go in for our consultations, that's one of the things we try to help them
understand
and to work around is we don't want it to feel like their old home, or their previous home, that person's home. We want it to feel like the buyer's next home, right?
Well,
You
that's
want
a
it to,
huge mind shift though.
right. I mean, because the photos, the diplomas, the calendars, they all imply that this is somebody else's home. And that's why people kind of tiptoe around and, you know, but if it's like, wow, this is how we could live, you know?
Mm-hmm. The other thing, when people go through someone's home with all of their stuff packed in there, they usually go a lot faster through the house. They look at it and they want to get out, as opposed to when it feels roomy, it feels fresh, it feels clean. They actually stay a while and they look at things more. And that's been one thing that we have noticed a lot.
So, and why do you think that is? Because I noticed that too.
Yeah.
I stand back and I watch how people are reacting in a space,
Mhm.
and make little mental notes. But
Mhm.
yeah, so why do you think that is, that people will hustle through when it's the seller stuff, but they'll linger when it's been staged?
I think a lot of it has to do with them feeling like they're in somebody else's house.
Mhm.
And so they just feel like, I got to get out. You know, I don't want to take up too much time.
Right.
Like they're intruding?
They're intruding.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, a little bit.
And think about too, the way that we try really hard to make things a little bit more spacious. People tend to crowd their house. You know, it's like, where do we want to put this? Okay, just put it over there, right? You know, you keep things that you might not need to keep. And we want it to feel more like there's some elbow room. And so when you have elbow room, then you can relax and you probably want to sit down because it looks so comfortable.
So can they sit on your furniture?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we'd rather they not change the way the pillows look.
They can't take a nap on it.
They can't touch the pillows.
You can sit, but don't move anything.
We expect that there's going to be some conversations between agents and sellers or buyers. The agent and the buyer are going to end up wanting to sit down and write their offer. You know what I mean?
Or at least definitely have a conversation. Yeah. So staging creates more space, elbow room, and that makes the buyers feel more comfortable and they stay longer at the showing. Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is true.
I bet a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also really, really, really true with the photos. When I'm sure all the agents listening know that, you know, the photos are being scanned through every day by their buyers, right? And so they always know when something's new on the market, right? Because they've already seen all the others. But those photos that look like a little magazine photo, you know, that looks like something from a pretty photo shoot, they'll click on that because they want to see that. And they'll spend longer on those photos than they will on an empty home or just someone else's stuff, unless they're like, what is that? On some of those occupied homes, sometimes it's like, what's that in that room?
Yeah.
The other great thing about us doing a consultation for the real estate agent of an occupied home is we can tell the clients the things that they need to get rid of. It's kind of like we take it off of your plate. You don't have to be the bad guy, but we also make them feel really good about why they're doing it, why it's important, and how we love their home. We love the way they've decorated it, but to sell it, you know, these are the things that we recommend. And so by the time we're done, they're actually excited about taking the stuff down, moving the furniture back, or getting rid of some of the furniture. And it just becomes kind of a friendship between us and them with their home. So
you mean instead of the seller feeling insulted?
Yes, exactly. Which is kind of a dance. It is a bit of a dance sometimes.
Yeah.
If our honesty does ever offend someone, at least it wasn't the real estate agent offending them, right? They need that real estate agent needs to maintain their relationship with that seller. And so we can help say the things that are hard to say.
So
whether it be about
for the agents that are shy about making those comments, that is an excellent thing for sure.
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
And we've even had, you know, we've had our great agent, our loyal agents that still say, no, the client doesn't want to take those curtains down. And we're going, you're not helping. You know, let us talk to them then.
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes people have things that are very important to them, like the special curtains that they, you know, have had forever, that were custom made. But we can convince them with photos or with statistics to talk about letting the light in and the new trends that are not, we want to appeal to the people who are more interested in the newer trends and things like that.
Well, and really, by the time you're listing your house, it's kind of not your house anymore. And that's a very hard mindset. And
Exactly.
I love the comment you made about the pictures looking better and the buyers spending more time online, because then you have a higher chance of getting a showing. And now the market's changing and things are taking a little longer to sell. So maybe this is a great time to start talking about staging. We're speaking with Jan Houston and Teresa Hutley of Ready, Set, Show Home Staging. We're getting some good tips and some good information. We are going to have to take a quick break. We're going to say thank you to our sponsors, John L. Scott, Ashland, Medford, Guy Giles Churchill Mortgage, and our local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We'll be right back. Do not touch that dial. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show. We're today talking to Jan Houston and Teresa Hutley of Ready, Set, Show Home Staging Company. And wow, we've already learned so much. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming on the show today.
We really appreciate being here.
Yeah, well, it's a big help. I've already learned a bunch, and I'm sure our listeners have too. So let's talk about what the next step is in home staging. We talked a little bit about why it was important. We were finishing that up here at the last segment.
Yeah, and one thing we wanted to mention is just basically when to think about home staging. And of course, as most people will know, it's when you're going to put your house up for sale. And we want to talk to you, if possible, a little early so that we can have time, because there's some of the things that we might recommend and that you might want to do will take a little time. It's not always going to be, a 2-day project, a weekend project. Sometimes you might want to, get some painting done or something like that. But we also want people to consider using staging with their rentals. So they can get terrific photos, and with professional staging and professional photos, basically it's, back to those days where you would see apartments with model units, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you walk in and you're hooked, right? And you're going to get a little higher end clientele. You're going to be able to ask a little higher price, and you're going to, maybe attract renters with a higher income level.
Staging for your rentals. That is such an excellent idea. So how does that work?
Well, in a rental situation, it would have to be a pretty quick turnaround because you want to get that unit rented right away. So we would come in, it would just be a quick 2-day process where we would stage it, and then you'd get your professional photographer in there, and then we would destage it. Rentals are one of the only places that I would really feel comfortable recommending also virtual staging, which we don't do, but there's some great photographers around here that we can recommend that do some nice virtual staging. And the reason I might recommend it for a rental would be just because it is such a quick turnaround. And you might want to get your renter in there right away, so that you don't want to wait for us.
Well, and I think a lot of people may not know what virtual staging is. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can talk a little bit about it. Like I said, we don't do it, so I'm not super familiar with it, but basically you provide photos of empty rooms, and the photographer will put furniture in there.
Right. They superimpose digital couches and digital ferns.
But they look real. It looks real.
It looks nice. Right. And the main downside to it, of course, with selling a house, is that when the photos will bring them to your door, but once they're in the door, the staging will get them to write an offer. When they walk in, we still have to convince them. They're not ready to write an offer right when they walk in. So they still have to feel good. And so we still believe in the full staging and of course, many people are still living there. And I don't know that virtual staging can be done with all of your stuff in the photo.
No, I think they have to have a vacant property for the
Yeah.
virtual staging to work. But then it's like you said, you get them to the door, and then it's like we talked about in the first segment, they might not have that warm, cozy, I
Right.
could live here, I could make this space my own. And they're
Absolutely.
watching all that on TV now. So
Exactly.
they have that expectation
Yeah.
of like having a romantic moment with the property, you
Right.
know.
And staging makes the house feel move-in ready.
Mhm.
And typically they are when a seller is able to stage, then typically the house is move-in ready, but it really gives that feeling of like, it's ready for us, you know.
Mhm.
And you just don't, and you don't want them to be disappointed at the first moment they walk in,
You
because they've just
don't.
seen these beautiful
Yeah.
photos and now they walk in
Yeah.
and it's
We
gone.
lose more buyers. Yeah. When they're disappointed at the at the actual showing.
The other thing that I'd love to say to share with home sellers is that when we do a consultation with them, it actually makes them feel, it reduces their stress, because sometimes you can feel like, I don't know what I need to put away. I mean, most real estate agents tell their clients, you should do this, this, and this, you know, for sure. But when we come in, we actually tell them exactly what to pack. And so they're already getting things put away. They're getting ready to move. And it literally, they have a checklist and they can feel like, okay, this is what I need to do. And it completely changes what their house looks like.
Well, I think just
Absolutely.
having something to do is handy.
Yeah.
That'll take your anxiety away. Just
Yeah, for sure.
having a
for sure.
list.
Yeah. So it's fun.
So I'll tell you a little bit about the process. We have basically 3 typical services. And so the first service that we really want people to know about, because it's so affordable and we believe in it 10,000%, but it's the consultation, and it's just a good solid 1-hour visit on site from us. And we will go over from head to toe, front to back, we walk through the whole house and go over all the recommendations that we can share for getting the house prepared for the photos, for the showings, to really be like we were saying, merchandising the product. And so we talk about what to pre-pack very specifically, and how to arrange what's left out. And let's see. And so we cover everything from, say, just general guidelines, like maybe around pets and cleanliness, onto specific things for their home that might be needed. Everything from the front yard to the backyard.
And something super simple that a lot of people don't necessarily do is just make sure they have all the same light bulbs. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah.
having warm, it actually changes the look in your whole home. And that's a big thing. I know Jan, especially, she's always like, okay, our recommendation, you know, and of course people can do what they want, but it's the recommendation that we give them. And it really does make a difference. And they'll even say to us, oh, I didn't even think about it, you know, because they have, you know, whatever light bulbs all over in different lamps and stuff. So something as simple as that can change the tone of the home.
Well, and having access to another opinion besides the real estate agent, because a lot of us, you know, we tell people this, but until they hear it again.
Yeah, for sure. That's true.
Yeah.
And I think as home sellers, especially if we're handy, right? We think somebody's going to come in here. Yeah, they're going to see that that's broken, but they're going to know it's an easy fix. But that's not the truth. They're going to come in and they're going to say, wow, this house must not be well maintained. And that's probably going to cost $10,000. You know, and so we don't want those little question marks to be left open-ended for them. We just want them to feel like this house is ready.
Yeah, this house is ready and it's not going to bleed me dry.
Right. And at the end of our consultation, we leave them with a very thorough checklist that they can use for preparing for their showings and their photos. To just reminders, like even little things like making sure the toilet's closed before the photos are taken, and you know, making sure all your lights are on, and take your trash out. Take your trash out every single day when you might have a showing.
Yes.
So and then we're happy to talk with them later, like on just a coaching phone call. So if we've gone over everything and they've forgotten what we said about the bedspread or whatever, you know, we'll be happy to talk on the phone. And then a great follow-up to our consultation for some people is going to be what we call occupied staging. And probably, you would probably know the statistics, but I don't know how exactly the number in our area, how many houses are on the market that are still being lived in while they're selling. Would you say it's well more than half, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, people are still living in their home when they're selling. So we want to, if they're not able physically or don't have time to do all the recommendations, or they just don't have a knack for like, where do I hang my art? How high do I hang it? Things like that. We can come in and help them arrange the furniture, help them hang their art, make the beds, things like that, get ready for the photos.
Oh, that's lovely.
So yeah, that's called occupied staging, and we can come in and work with what you have, and in a few hours make your house look a lot different. Help, it's like, have a few boxes ready, because we'll probably pack a few things away because most of us have more than we need sitting out.
Yep,
And
that's so true.
In an empty house that we actually stage the house, we really take time to look at who they're trying to sell to, the price range, and that's the kind of furniture that we bring in. That's the kind of artwork. We want to really be intentional when we are actually staging the home, bringing our stuff into the home, and that's of course what we love to do. That's so fun to just completely transform a house.
Well, and a lot of times people have beloved furniture and items that don't always fit the house they purchased, that they're now selling. And so this idea that you can kind of come in and make the space a little more, not only beautiful, but more functional, just with different size furniture. People sometimes have the wrong size furniture for their house.
Or they just really need that recliner for their back
for their life happiness.
Yeah. But it's right in the middle of the aisle, right in the middle of the pathway. So we're like, okay, we need good flow. We talk about the flow and the proper width of some pathways around the house and things like that. Yeah. So on vacant stages, we always do a preview so we can take some measurements and some photos. And then we schedule the installation day, and we come in, and usually we can have that, the whole house, or however many rooms they choose to stage, we can have that done in 4 hours or less. And we'll
that's really fast.
Yeah, well, we work with movers who help us bring in the furniture, and we focus on we have our systems, and we have our flow. Yeah. And so we get it done. Of course, that doesn't include the packing time.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Now, you had mentioned earlier de-staging. What is de-staging?
That's when we come and pick our stuff up. So usually the house will sell, and we need to know the closing date, because we have to come in and get all of our things out before the closing date. So we schedule that date at least 48 hours before closing. It's recommended that, and that leads us to a good question, is how long do we stage for? Yeah, and so that's typically 30 days or more. We usually start with 30 days, and then once they get an offer, we ask, okay, what's your closing date? What's your contingency date? Because you really want to keep your staging through your contingency date, because I can tell you from experience, I hired that stager for my remodel, and then the home sold, but then that buyer backed out, and now I had no staging when I went back on the market.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So we want to keep that in there long enough, and we can do weekly extensions if needed.
Okay, well, that's handy, weekly extensions.
Yeah. It helps a lot.
So we're talking to Jan Houston and Teresa Hutley of Ready, Set, Show Home Staging Company, learning tons and tons about the pros and successes of home staging. We're going to take a quick break. This is going to air again tomorrow at 6 p.m. So you can listen to Jan and Teresa all over again Sunday at 6 p.m. We're going to say thank you to our sponsors, John L. Scott, Ashland, Medford, Guy Giles, Churchill Mortgage, and our local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. We're talking to Jan Houston, Teresa Hutley of Ready, Set, Show Home Staging. Thanks, ladies, again for being on the show. We're learning so much.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about, I want to have you in my home. I'm going to sell. I called you for a consultation. Let's talk about price, timing, all that.
Okay, great. We actually schedule the time to come that works for both of us, and it's an hour long. And right now we charge $200. So we come in, and like Jan said earlier, we go through your whole house. You go with us, and we are writing things down. You're writing things down. We take pictures, and we're letting you know all the things that are great about your home that you want to, accent, and you want people to see for sure. And then some of the things that you need to, dismiss or declutter and that kind of thing. That takes about an hour. And it's a great conversation. And Jan, she loves to talk about just how the return that you get for that. So give us some of those.
Oh, we really want people to know the return on investment for a consultation, we believe, is 10,000%, because you will only pay $200 right now as the current price, and we believe if you follow our recommendations that you'll see at least a $20,000 increase in your offers. Especially, if your home has several issues that need to be addressed, we can really help you fine tune those before you hit the market.
Yeah. And it just really helps people to know what they need to do to start packing. There's just so much that goes into it, and it's so great for the seller.
Oh, and it probably cuts down on the overwhelm. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and it reduces the stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, because selling your house is so stressful, and we recognize that this is your biggest asset, and that it's a huge, and even we know that, of course, staging, especially if you have to stage a vacant home, it's a big investment. But that's why we, like Teresa said, we are careful with the target market, and we learn that, and we talk to the agent, and we know, what is important to that target market and that in that neighborhood, and how we need to present the home.
Mm-hmm.
And when a home seller is still living there, I was just at a consultation the other day where, I was asking her, what's your priority? What's most important? Is it a quick sale? Is it an easy sale because maybe you don't have the time or the ability? How can I best advise you? Like, if you've got months to do the work that I'm going to recommend, then I know I can really get into everything. But if you have a week, then I'm going to hit the most important things. So we really try to customize our recommendations to.
Oh, that's super good. Yeah, because it does make a difference.
Them out telling them you've got to change everything when they only have. We've just recently had somebody who really only had a few days, because they had made an offer in Portland, and it was contingent on them listing, so they had to hurry up.
And there's so much of that right now, and as you're talking, I'm thinking this is actually a great time for people to consider staging, because the market is a little bit slower, and you just hit it on the head. A lot of these sales that are happening right now are twofers. They're selling and they're buying at the same time. Super stressful, super logistically challenging. And you don't want to mess around and have your listing languish. We don't want languishing listings.
And it's really important to call us early, because we really want to get your thing. We want to help you get the house ready before you list, so that you're not looking at days on market when you weren't ready. And then now we're coming back. Maybe it's because sometimes people are calling us now when they've already been on the market a couple months.
I wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah, we've had a couple of really good successes lately where they were on the market 2 and then another one 3 months, taken already substantial price reductions, but they still weren't getting calls even. And so we went in and we staged, we got new photos, they had an open house, and one of them sold in 2 days and one of them sold in 5 days.
Wow.
And so those are our just real recent successes. And it can make all the difference. We really want you to call us early though, before you list, if possible. If you've already listed, then feel free and call us in if you're not meeting the successes that you want, because we can help you, especially before your first price reduction. Call us and we can maybe do some.
Oh, that's great advice.
Yeah, let's get you some recommendations, and then you can maybe get some new photos if needed. Maybe do an open house at the same time as your price reduction, so that you can get some new energy, some new activity looking at your photos.
And if you're on the market now, and like Jan was saying, and you're not getting showings or you're not getting the kind of offers you want, you're getting feedback. And sometimes the feedback is the space looks too small for my king size bed. When in fact, if you put a king size bed in there, they'd be able to see it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, like people will completely discount spaces that might have
Really
worked.
true. It's really true.
It's really hard for them to envision it. And that's what staging can help, is they can envision it as their home.
And it helps the buyer and seller both.
Correct.
Absolutely.
It's a
100%.
win-win.
And the agent.
And the agent, right. So in the few minutes we have left, I wanted to ask a little bit about staging specialty kinds of spaces, like spaces that are small or spaces that are super big. How can staging help with that?
Well, actually, we just did that in one of the houses. It was kind of like a long double living room. And so we had to figure out how to make that look. And that was something that people were not liking. I mean, they would just it was a beautiful home, but they just couldn't get past this room. So we ended up making it, like a living room, and we didn't put dividers up, but the way we did the furniture, it made it appear to have, this is this space. And then we have another space, which we made into an office sitting room. And it turned out great. And it really helped the flow of, for the traffic, and they could envision, oh, this could be for another space instead of an oblong living room.
Like, what am I going to do with this building?
Right. Exactly. So that's a great example. Some things, you can put a little reading nook. There's obviously so many different things that you can do, but a lot of times it's turning something into an office or a place to relax, a reading space, something like that.
Quite often it's getting the right size furniture in there too. Like if they have a small dining room, or maybe an extra big dining room, or like you said, a king size bed, a bedroom that's really big. We need to get a king size bed in there. Or if the bedroom's very small, then we show that a queen size fits nicely along with, a floor lamp instead of a table lamp. There's like all these little tricks that we can make it show. We can show the home's potential when it could be questionable.
And so even if you are listed, if you're getting feedback like that, you could call Jan and Teresa at Ready, Set, Show Home Staging, and they could come in and help you move that house along.
Yeah.
And we do have something I forgot to mention to you, Alice. I wanted to offer this, especially for the agents in the community, but also just for home sellers. And so if you would like to get more tips from us, including our very perfect checklist that will help you so much, if you'll just go onto our website, which is readysetshowroguevalley.com, and you can subscribe to our brand new blog, and we'll get you, anybody who subscribes, we'll send them the checklist so that they can.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a little freebie for your listeners.
And what's the website again?
Ready, Set, Show, Rogue Valley, all run together.com.
Okay.
And then they'll get our upcoming tips as well.
That's great. Well, thank you, Jan and Teresa. Ready, Set, Show.
Thank you, Alice.
Staging.
We really appreciate you.
And we appreciate you. We'll have you back. Thanks, everybody.
Great.
Have a beautiful weekend. Bye now.
Bye.